So what has made the Yamaha Bolt become so popular in recent years, and what causes it to be one of the highest searched motorcycles on Google and YouTube to this day? Today I want to take another ride on one and do an in-depth look at the Yamaha Bolt again, so stick around for a few minutes. So real fast, before we dive into today's video, I need to give a huge thank you and shout out to America's Motorsports Madison, Tennessee for providing the motorcycle for this video. Thank you. What's up everyone, it's Alex. A little bit different setting I know, but I've done a review on the channel of the Bolt before. It was one of my honest reviews that I do that's kind of short and concise and everything. That video has had a lot of interest, and to this day the Bolt, according to analytics, continues to be one of the highest searched motorcycles on Google and YouTube respectively. So I thought today we would take another ride on one and do much more of a deep dive into what the Bolt is all about and why so many people are interested in the Bolt at this time. Real quick while I'm at it, if you dig the video, if you like what's going on here, hit like, and if you're new, subscribe, because that tells me what kind of videos to keep making for you guys. So we're gonna go old school and do this all first person perspective-y. So just basics to start out, what do we got? So this is a 2019 Yamaha Bolt. Just for the record, this is a 2019 model. This is a Bolt standard. This is the base model Bolt. If this were an R-Spec, just to show you, the R-Spec, you would see reservoirs on the rear shock. That is my dead giveaway of an R-Spec versus a standard Bolt. So if you don't see external reservoirs on your rear shocks, you're probably dealing with a base model Bolt. If you're dealing with a C-Spec, then it's going to have down cafe bars and all that kind of stuff on it. But R-Spec will have external reservoir shocks on the back. This is a base model Bolt. Performance numbers are exactly the same. So what do we have with the Yamaha Bolt? So the Yamaha Bolt is a technically cruiser segment V-twin motorcycle produced from around 2014 to present, sporting a 950-ish cc air and oil cooled V-twin that puts out somewhere in the 60 to 65 horsepower. We'll just call it low 60s horsepower, and somewhere in the upper 50s as far as torque rating goes. Matched up to a nice solid 5-speed transmission and a belt final drive. You have external rear shocks, very standard front forks, single disc rear brake, single disc front brake, and unless they're using some other crazy system I'm not aware of, this does not have ABS. As far as seating position, they went with a very Sportster standard kind of small cruiser, but also kind of standard hybrid seating position. It's very much a smaller mid-size cruiser setup, but the foot pegs are directly under you, and you have almost more of a straight drag bar. They come back just a little bit, but very straight bars on it. Traditional round style headlight, round style turn signals, very basic traditional mirrors, very basic single all digital gauge readout, peanut style gas tank. Basically everything about the Bolt is actually very middle of the road standard slash classic styling, just, you know, with modern technology basically. Comes in a standard base model like this. As we discussed, it also comes in an R-Spec that has slightly better reservoir shocks on the back of it. Whether or not that's worth the upgrade, totally up to you. In a bike of this style, I don't find upgraded suspension to be a super big deal, but your mileage may vary. It also has come in a C-Spec version that was kind of a cafe setup that Yamaha sort of did from the factory, since so many people were customizing these. And pricing is going to be all over the place on these. Since they've been out since 2014, it's pretty easy to find them used for very inexpensive. Usually $3,000 or $4,000 will get you a very nice used Bolt, or brand new ones are what, like $7,900 or something like that. Somewhere between $7,000 and $8,000 to get you brand spanking new one. So not an expensive motorcycle for the size and for what you get in modern terms. So here's the big deal about the Bolt, and here's why I think it has become so popular and continues to increase in popularity as time goes on, and as more and more people get into what I would say more realistic, practical, usable all-around motorcycles as opposed to getting into very specialty performance stuff. The Bolt is almost exactly the middle of the road when it comes to motorcycles. What I mean by that is, it's a 950cc engine, which at least in the US is right in the middle of the range of engines you tend to see. You see anything from, you know, 150 cc's popular all the way up to almost 2000 cc's and beyond, right? So a 950cc V-twin is right in the middle of the engine size for what you'll see, especially in the United States. It also happens to have a belt final drive, which is right in the middle of your spectrum between chain, belt, and shaft drive motorcycles. As far as seating position, it is right in the middle. It is technically a cruiser segment bike, but it actually has a very kind of standard seating position. At 5'9", when I sit on this motorcycle with the foot pegs being right under me and the handlebars where they are, it puts me almost straight up and down, ironically, which is a weird thing to do for a cruiser. Usually I lean more back on a cruiser, but the Bolt actually puts me very straight up and down. So despite being kind of a small, more Sportster cruiser style, it actually has a very standard upright seating position that fits a lot of medium-sized people really, really well. I have seen people have issues with the Bolt when they're a little taller. We'll talk about that in a minute with downsides, but it's a very, very middle of the road standard when it comes to seating position. It's also very middle of the road when it comes to power delivery. At somewhere around 60 horsepower and somewhere around 60 torque, that's a very, very middle, flat, constant kind of power delivery. So it's enough power to keep most people happy. It's not so much power that it's really easy to get away from you. It's very easy for people to get used to, but it's got enough where experienced riders can squeeze that little bit out of it and can have fun with it. The horsepower to torque being so close means it's a torquey motor off the bottom, but it doesn't necessarily run out of steam when you get to the middle and upper end of the range. So it's a very middle of the road when it comes to power delivery. The Bolt is also very, very middle of the road when it comes to handling. It does not handle as light and flickable as something like a sport bike or a naked sport bike like the MT-03 or any of those kind of bikes. It is not as light and flickable as those are. It's also not as big and heavy and clumsy as some of your big cruisers are. It handles very well at highway speed. It handles very well at low speed. It just handles well. It is not a master of handling, but it handles plenty good enough. So it's also very, very middle of the road when it comes to handling. And it does, to me anyway, objectively handle better than the other big bike that it competes with in the segment, which is the Sportster of, you know, such long make and venerable history. So that basically is what the Bolt has done, was take the place of what the Sportster had in the market, and I think anyway, taking it to perfection. You basically get a Harley Sportster style motorcycle that fills that category, but with a more modern, smoother engine design, a little bit more power, a little bit better handling, it's a little bit lighter, and to me, it's actually more comfortable to sit on. It's not as top heavy as a Sportster. So for most categories, it is objectively a superior version of a Sportster made by Yamaha. Also, for the size and what you pay and everything, it gets fairly good fuel economy depending on how you ride it. Usually when I ride a Bolt, I get somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 miles to the gallon, maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit worse depending on how I'm riding, but it's also pretty good on the fuel economy. So when you wrap the very middle of the road, kind of one size fits most nature of the Bolt, it helps to explain why it's become so popular. Then you throw in the low price point overall, new and used of it, and the fuel economy, etc. You're starting to get the picture. Now we're getting into the biggest part of the Yamaha Bolt, which is the customization. Basically what Yamaha made with this thing was they made you a blank slate and a blank canvas to do whatever the hell you want to do. You buy one of these things, you've got a 950 V-twin that puts out enough power, fuel injection, decent handling, all that kind of good stuff, and it is made to be a less is more, no frills, blank slate. These things have caught on fire with the customization and modability community. You can easily take this thing and you can make a bobber out of it with very little fuss. You can take this, you can make a very, very cool cafe bike out of it easily. You can take it and make a mini chopper out of the damn thing. You can change the seating position and everything up a little bit, change the bars out, put some bags on it. I've seen people turn these into little mini touring bikes. When these first came out, the shop that I was working for even took one of these and did a custom flat tracker, street tracker build out of it that was crazy cool with a whole different subframe and everything. So the customization options and capabilities and possibilities with the Bolt are literally endless. This thing is just a blank canvas to take your paintbrush and build whatever you want to. It goes together easy, it comes apart easy, there's parts out there everywhere. this is one of the absolute most customizable modern motorcycles I have ever seen when it comes to this kind of a deal. Kind of like the Sportster is. So many people like to customize the Sportster because it's so easy to do and there's so many possibilities. The Bolt is that to a whole nother degree. Then we take all of that, right? So we take the overall versatility, middle of the road nature of it, the customizability of it, the overall economy and value prospect of it, and then we throw in there that it's now built a proven track record of almost indestructible reliability. They used the 950 V-Star motor when they made the thing, which had been in production since like 2009 already. So you're talking about an 11-year engine on the thing that has just proven to be yet another super durable, hard to tear up Yamaha engine. So when you take all of those things and roll them together, it's really, really easy to see why the Bolt has been popular and year after year seems to be gaining even more in popularity. Like I said, with recent analytics, this is the most searched for motorcycle on YouTube and Google as of right now. That can change. Don't shoot me if it's different when you look it up. But as of right now, most searched for motorcycle on Google and YouTube. It's a really good value for the money. It handles plenty well. It has enough power for what it is. It is infinitely customizable, and it has proven to be stupid reliable. Take all those things, wrap them together, and modern motorcycle riders, especially people that are just getting into it, are looking at this thing going, okay, you know what? I can get a motorcycle that's a really good value for the money, that'll probably run forever, gets good fuel economy, and will do what I want it to do. And if I ever want to make it something else, I can make it something else. It's really easy to see why the Bolt has become one of the most popular bikes out there for right now, on top of the 650 Enfields and a lot of those other very practical motorcycles. But it's basically just a very, very practical motorcycle that does what you need it to do without being too crazy. It's a great value for the money. It's a lot of the reasons why it made my top 5 list that was so controversial. I don't know if you guys are noticing or not, but I love you guys enough and want to make videos for you enough that I'm doing it in the rain right now. It's actually raining on me as I make this video. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I wanted to do a ride and review on the Bolt again, just do more of an updated, in-depth one to go along with the last review I did on it. As usual, have a great day, ride safe. I'm Alex. Peace.